Hello, everyone, and welcome to ScrivTalk. I'm so glad you're joining us. My name is Liana George, author and co-owner of Scrivenings Press. And here on ScrivTalk, we enjoy sitting down with our authors to talk about their stories, their inspiration, and the journey behind the books they write. And today, I am delighted to welcome Amy Anguish. Amy grew up as a preacher's kid, and despite having lived in 7 different states, all south of the Mason-Dixon line, of course. She is not a football fan. Oh my gosh, I don't know if we can talk anymore, Amy. Oh,
Like high school football. I just anything higher than that. No.
all right. We'll discuss that. That's a discussion for another time.
Okay.
Anyway, she currently resides in Tennessee with her husband, daughter, and son, along with usually a bossy cat or two who may be making an appearance here today, folks.
Yes. You just never can tell.
Yeah. Amy holds an English degree from Freed Hardman University and hopes to use her writing to glorify God by telling stories that show why Christians face real struggles, things can still work out for good. Amy's newest release is Fairest Inn All, book 2 in her real life fairy tale series. And today we're going to talk about the story, the characters, and the inspiration behind it. So, welcome, Amy, to Script Talk.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the story
Okay.
let's get people, I guess you could say, caught up or, just giving them a little bit of background, especially if they haven't read any of your books before or
Okay.
they're just discovering the series. How would you describe the heart of Ferris and all?
I would say the heart of this story is what does happily ever after actually mean?
Mm,
Because we read a book and we think, oh, that had a happy ending. But in reality, in romance novels, you really want that happy ending to be the beginning of the relationship and to believe that the characters are going to go on to have a good relationship for years and years and years and years. That
yeah,
is happily ever after to
yeah,
me. It's not, but is it all going to be good? Probably not, because we live in the real world and things are going to happen. So what is a happily ever after actually? And my character Carrie really struggles with um believing that they exist
yeah,
because we've been brought up to think of all these fairy tales where it just ends when they get together and they kiss and they go off and you see, oh, happily ever after.
yeah.
And you don't actually see what comes next.
True, true. Very true. Yeah. And I know for romance, that's what people want, right? They want that
Yes.
happily ever after. I think like in the definition of a romance genre, there has to be this happy ever after,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
But,
Yes.
it's a good question. What does happen after that? And because, yeah, pulling back the curtain a little bit. So I love that. So your story begins with Carrie White. Obviously, this is the Snow White. You did Cinderella already with Renacella, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yes.
But this is with Carrie White and her brother traveling to Georgia to help restore their uncle's inn. It kind of has
Yes.
like a fixer-up feel to me. I mean, I can say that being in Texas. So I'm just curious for you, what sparked the idea for this story? I mean, are you like a fixer-upper HTV kind of fan, or do you do your own DIY stuff?
I am not as much as I want to be. I
Uh,
would love to be able to go in and do all that fun stuff to my house, but
yeah,
that takes a lot of money
yeah,
and time, and I don't have either of those right now.
yeah,
So, um, no, but I love stories like that. I've read several stories like that, and Um, I was writing the end of Rendersella, and Carrie gets this letter from the uncles that she didn't even remember she had these 7 uncles down in Georgia, and they're asking her for help because she did help turn around their aunts in West Virginia.
mhm.
And as it like percolates in my brain, I didn't even know I was going to write this story. Um, but as I write the scene where she's reading the letter with her uncles, her 7 uncles asking her to come down, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's Snow White.
Oh,
So, um, then my muse is like, well, you have to write it now. You
Yeah.
can't just leave it there. So, um, yeah, that's what brings her down to interact with the uncles. You have to have something to get her to
Sure.
interact with the seven
Yeah,
men.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but I want to know, like, if these are her seven uncles, her mom or her dad came from a really big family.
Mom. Yeah, her mom was the baby and
Mhm.
she was a surprise. After all these
Oh,
seven boys, they finally got their girl. And they're
okay.
all named after apples because their last name is Apple.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got to get really creative with researching apple names because there's like hundreds of
Yeah.
apple names
Yeah.
to choose from. And I'm like, okay, which one's gonna fit this one the best?
So that is fun, though. I bet that it was
Yes.
fun being able to find those names and then craft an interesting character. My dog
Hmm.
wants to. See, we said the cat was going to show up, but actually it's the dog. It's a new dog. She still has to learn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. You get all these characteristics of these different apples. So I'm sure it was really fun to be able to,
Yes.
use that to help you create these characters, which is always really fun. I mean, I think people underestimate how important it is to really understand and know your characters. Because the more you know them, the more you get to bring them to life on the page.
Yes. And it was a I had a struggle with it this time more than any of my other stories because I just had so many characters. I was going through my content edits and I was like, oh my goodness, she wants more details. She wants more details. And you're going to be proud of me. I used AI to create a picture
Oh, there you
so
go.
that so that I could picture what I wanted these guys to look like. And then I labeled it, like I printed it out and labeled it. I'm like, this one's Pendragon and this one's Everard and this one is Macintosh. And that way, as I got to the scene where she wanted more details, I'm like, well, his hair is a little fluffy and they're all wearing suspenders and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's yeah. I mean that it's hard. It can be really, really hard. And the more characters you have, the more difficult it is, I would think, to differentiate
Yes.
between them, right?
Yes.
So that you don't make them all sound the same or act the
Exactly.
same. Looks we can
Yeah.
get by, like you said, we can generate a photo and we can easily distinguish their facial features and characters, but it's getting those certain quirky features about their character that it's hard to do with so many in a cast.
Yes.
Yeah. So kudos to you for getting it done though.
I
Uh,
did.
you did. You did. All right. Well, so let's talk about the title because
Mhm.
um it's a play on words, right? Snow White was the fairest in all. And you named the book Fairest in All, and there's a contest within the story called The Fairest in All. So
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about your contest and how it shapes the plot? Because it's kind of a major role, actually.
Yeah, it's a big role. I I love words. I love playing with words. Obviously, I'm an author, but just like um no, I can't think of the word. I want puns. I love puns. And
Tons.
I love twisting words to where they have a slightly different meaning. And so I needed something that would automatically make people go, "Oh, it's a Snow White retelling."
Mm.
And so I'm like, what's one of the phrases that we always use when we were talking about Snow White? And she was the fairest and all, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but I have her going down there to work on this inn, so I did it Fairest in all.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where the contest comes from. And so my hero is Royal Barrett,
Uh-huh.
and his dad is part of the Chamber of Commerce. And Royal has helped the Chamber develop this contest because he's um, an architect. Like he majored in architecture and in history, and he just loves the old aspect of Brunswick, Georgia, and he wants to preserve it and really celebrate it and keep all of these new newer inns and hotels and stuff from
Mm,
just taking over and them losing their culture, basically.
yeah.
Um, so he's very passionate about it. He convinces his dad and the chamber to do this contest, and it encourages the older inns. They have to be like older than a certain number of years, and it has this whole list of requirements where they have to really just preserve their history, and then they actually bring in guests from out of town to come in and judge the different ones that have entered. And then they let the town vote on
Mm,
which one is their favorite of the ones that the judges chose. So it's like a two-round contest, and then the winner is going to get advertisement on the chamber's website and in the local papers, and they get a big banner to put across the front of their inn.
yeah.
Um, nothing monetary, but just extra publicity and word of mouth, which is what everybody needs to really get their name out there.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's how Royal meets Carrie, is he's delivering the flyers for this contest to all the different inn owners. And she's standing there, they've just arrived, and he hands her the flyer, and she's like, okay, this is more motivation to do what we're down here to do.
Mm,
But it also tightens their deadlines. So
yeah.
it's like oh, this is good, but also bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what helps create the tension, right? And now we've got this
Hmm.
timeline we're pushing up against. So it's great. Great writing.
Yes.
Great writing. So let me just ask you, why an inn? Why not just, something else? So, I mean, like, did you have to do a lot of research on inns or, why an inn?
Um, I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
guess because you were using in all, so that kind of makes
Yes,
sense.
that's part of the reason. Mostly it's because, they had been working at a hotel up in West Virginia, and I had said that they helped turn it around. They helped with the maintenance and upkeep. So it just made sense
Hmm.
as a good reason to bring them down to Georgia is this is something they've already done, so it makes sense for them to go do it again, even though it's different. The hotel in West Virginia with her aunt was more modern and up to date, and all the sleek
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And then this inn is obviously not. Like it's actually condemned at the beginning of the book, and they're going to have to go in and make sure everything is fixed and working and up to date
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah.
At HGTV somebody from HGTV could read this and have you co-host the show about restoring older inns in a contest. That would be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sounds good. Let's do
I know,
it.
right? You'll take the job. It's just one more thing you
Hey,
could,
Joanna,
yeah,
call me.
yeah, Joanna, call us. Yeah. Well, she
Yeah.
just lives down the road from me in Waco, so
Yes,
yeah.
I've been there. So
Yes.
it's
So
been a few years, but yeah.
yeah. Well, first of all, I'm just going to apologize right now for my dog. Like I said, she's a new dog, and there's something that's got her ire. So hopefully it's not coming through too much. Okay, so let's talk about Carrie and Royal because I want to get really into them. Um, because Carrie is kind of practical and determined, but she's also hesitant to trust in romance. What makes her such an interesting heroine?
Didn't you just answer that question? Um,
Hey now.
okay. Um, so yeah, so fairy tales, you go back and look at so many of the fairy tales, they lose one of their parents early on, or both in
Yep.
some cases. And so Carrie's lost her mom, and she grew up seeing her dad grieving.
Mm,
Like her mom passed away when she was about 10. So first she went through her mom being sick for a lot of years and
yeah.
not able to interact. And then she sees her dad grieving all these years, and she's like, not sure it's worth it.
Mm, yeah.
Because if it's just going to end that way, why would I want to do it?
Sure.
You know? So she decides very early in her life, like when she's still a kid, she doesn't want a happily ever after. If
Mm,
that's what they look like, she
mm,
doesn't want it.
yeah.
And so even though she doesn't really remember all of the reasons and everything that they've been through, she's just got it in her head. It's just there in concrete because, like you said, she's stubborn.
Hmm.
Um, she's very determined. She's very like fixated on this is the way it's going to be, and we need to do it this way. And so it it makes her it drives her crazy because her brother is not like that, and that's who she's working with.
Uh,
And her brother is very laid back and easygoing and silly.
hmm.
And he sort of balances her out,
Mm.
because she's very uptight and, oh, we've got to do it. We got to do it. We got it. We've got this deadline. We can't slack off. We can't go fishing. We can't stop at the bakery, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we're stopping at the bakery. Yeah, I'm taking a day and going fishing, So like it was really fun to write that brother-sister relationship. Like I fell in love with these characters in the first book. So I was really glad
Uh-huh.
that my muse said, "Hey, you need to write this story too," because then I could go play with them some more.
Yeah.
It's sort of sad to leave them behind after this story, but um yeah, she's definitely got some quirks and some depth, and it's definitely interesting to see how Royal has to sort of step in and prove her wrong
Mm.
after believing this for so many years.
Okay. So before we get to Royal, two more questions. I'm glad you brought him up because I do want to talk about him. One, do you have a brother?
I do.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
kept, so you kind of used that, I guess, a little bit
Yeah.
about, yeah. And is Carrie, how much like Carrie is in you or you and her?
Um, I would like to say I'm not like Carrie.
Uh-huh.
As I don't want to think of myself as like very, oh, it's got to be this way or it can't be right.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm like that. I do know that some of the times that I'm talking to Carrie in my story and reminding her of things, I probably am talking to myself at the same time. Like, hey, loosen up. God's got this.
Yeah.
Rest in him, lean on him. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think all of us as authors put a little bit of ourselves into our characters.
Yes.
I think we can't help it. So, um,
Maybe the creative part that
oh,
that comes up
okay.
with all the apple crafts to go in
Yeah.
the rooms, that
Yeah.
that maybe
There you
that's the
go.
part of me
Yeah, it
that
doesn't, it doesn't have to be a negative personality,
yeah.
right?
Definitely the scene where she's talking about how she's burned her fingertips so many times with the hot glue gun. That one's definitely me. I That was totally personal experience.
Well, write what you know, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, let's talk about Royal a little bit. Um, what was the most enjoyable part about writing his character?
Um, he really wants to be like her knight in shining armor. He wants to step in and be the guy for her.
Uh-huh.
And he doesn't really know what to do with the fact that she doesn't want one, but he still acts like one because even though she thinks she doesn't need one, like he'll come in right at just the right moment and save her from something.
Mm.
Um, Literally
Yeah,
save her from something. I'm not gonna spoil any
yeah.
of it,
No
but
spoilers.
those those were some really fun scenes. Just to have him there and her going, wait, I should be grateful. Am I grateful? I don't know if I'm grateful or not. And he's like, yeah, she's not appreciating this, but it's for her own good, so I'm gonna do. And then it was also really fun to write his relationship with his dad
Mm.
because his dad is very much like, if this is what you want, you need to go get it,
Mm.
kind of guy.
Yeah.
And Royal's like, well, I don't want to push her away. I don't want to, scare her off. And so writing those scenes where his dad's like, you just need to go, go get her. And then the mom will walk through and be like, is he giving you dating advice again? Really? So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that is fun. That is fun. Well, I know there's like you mentioned her brother Jake, and we have Rosie, and they developed their own relationship. So, are we going to see something come out from them, or is that where we're headed for book three?
No, that is nothing to do with book three. That was just a little bonus that snuck into this
Well, those
book.
do happen. You
Yes.
know that some things can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jake has always been in my head the hunter character.
Hmm.
And so, the hunter sort of like helps Snow White escape the queen and is the good guy. Um, but there's a hunter in another story too, and that story is Red Riding Hood.
Mm,
And so Rosie works at Granny's Bakery and
mm.
makes apple tartlets, and the hunter, Jake, falls in love with Little Red Riding Hood. So,
Oh, okay. Okay. I see
like
where
I said, it's a bonus. Bonus
there
fairy
you
tale
go.
characters that snuck in.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So I look forward to that. Well, you just mentioned Queenie.
Hmm.
Queenie Bill, right? And so
Yes.
we all know who that is. But she creates a lot of tension, as you would expect, as someone trying to buy up those old inn. Why did you make her the antagonist that she was?
Well, I needed an evil queen. This was
Okay,
this was the
I
hardest.
should have said, besides the obvious.
Yes. Um, I've got to say, this was the hardest character for me to write. Like, I have never struggled with character like I have with her.
Oh, really?
And it's because I've never really had the protagonist before.
Mm,
I write romance.
yeah,
We don't really have bad guys in
true.
straight up romance. And so these last two books where I have the bad guys, I have in Rendersell, we had the stepmother and the stepsister. And
Hmm.
in this one, we have Queenie Ville. And I had to get into her head and figure out what was making her tick and why is she doing this. And I was like, I've never had to be a bad guy before. I don't know how to do this. So um several of my friends and I spent hours just
Mm,
like picking her apart and figuring out why is she the way she is and
yeah,
what's making it happen. And when I got to the end, I really like the way she turned, like she's still bad,
yeah,
but you can see why she's bad and you can be like, "Oh, okay, well, don't really want to root for her, but I get it, you
yeah,
know."
yeah.
So,
Kind of like the whole Maleficent story, right?
yes,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, so she doesn't have her own point of view. You just get little bits and pieces throughout, but it was really fun just sort of figuring out how is she going to act when she walks into a room. She carries herself like she's royalty. She has these very long fingernails that she taps on things,
Mm.
or she carries this giant purse that you just expect this tiny little dog to poke his head out, putting in pantsuits, and she's just very put together and looks down her nose at everyone. And so it was fun getting into her and just creating that part, but then getting into the nitty-gritty of why is she this way? That was my big struggle with this one.
Yeah. And I can understand why you would have that struggle. I mean, I remember when I wrote my books, it was hard for me to do the dating scenes because one, I'm not a romance writer, and two, I hadn't been on a date, since 1988. So, it had been a long time. So it was hard for
You
me to
need to
write.
get your husband to take you on a date,
Well, you know
Leanna.
what I mean. You know what I mean. Yeah, we go on plenty of dates. We're empty
Yeah,
nest. We're dating every night.
right.
But yeah, I do understand how that can be difficult when you have to write something in your story that's just not natural to you. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is hard. That is hard. But you sailed through it. So good job. Good job.
Thank you.
So you've got everything going on in this book. You've got renovations, a hurricane, a high stakes contest. Which scene was most fun for you to write?
Hmm. There were so many scenes that were fun. I especially liked the ones where I was weaving in the pieces and parts from the original fairy tale,
Mm.
even though they don't look exactly the same, but just throwing in those little hints and nuances and Easter eggs, I guess. Like the newspaper is titled The Mirror.
Ah.
so they can say mirror,
Yeah.
mirror,
Yeah.
who's the fairest and all, you know. Um, and then just the uncles were always, it was always fun to write those scenes to
Yeah.
just bring out their personalities and how would they react to this and that. But I really love the scene where Royal actually takes, I don't want to say kidnaps, but he convinces Carrie to go across to St. Simon's Island and just play a tourist for a day. And St. Simon's is where my husband and I had our honeymoon.
Mm,
So that's why I love this area is because, it's just sweet memories for
yeah.
me. And then we went back a few years ago and took our kids. And so that's even more sweet memories piled on top of those original ones. Um, and so it's just like our favorite part of Georgia. And so going through and like reliving my memories through my characters
Hmm.
was just really fun.
Oh, that is fun. That is fun. I love that you did that on your honeymoon. You went back with your kids. We did
Yeah,
the exact same thing on our 20th. We took the kids back and we
fun.
yeah, did that. And like you
Yeah.
said, created new memories. So
Hmm.
that's really good. So let's talk about faith, right? Because I know
Okay.
that you are a deep woman of faith. And your stories often show characters facing real struggles while trusting God. So,
Yeah.
how has your faith influenced not only your writing, but influenced how you develop the characters in this book?
I always, I say always, I don't always. I go in and I know that they're going to have some sort of struggle. And even if I make them Christians, even if they always go to church or whatever,
Yeah.
um, they're still going to have to struggle with something that's going to affect them because that's the way life works. Like, I've been a Christian since 1995 that's when I was baptized. And I've grown up in the church my whole entire life. And there are still days that I'm like, okay, God, why is this? Why do we have to do this? Why are we having to deal with this? Or, what's going to happen next? And I've gotten a lot better at dealing with all of this through the years. Obviously, my faith has grown.
Sure.
But you still have those days,
Yeah.
when you question things and you wonder why things are happening. So Carrie has a lot of that. Um, you know, uh, Losing her mom, having her dad grieving all these years, and then um she keeps getting told that she's an answer to prayer.
Mm,
And she is really struggling with that idea because God didn't answer all those prayers that she offered up all those years ago,
yeah.
So does God really use people to answer prayers,
Yeah.
And so that's her struggle. And Royal sort of steps in and just sort of walks with her through it, which is really um in some ways it's good, and in some ways he becomes a little preachy a couple times, and he totally admits it. He's like, "Oh, that was too much. I shouldn't have pushed her that far," But he's there to just remind her, yeah, God can use anybody, and maybe he used me when I saved you over here.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, I wasn't praying for help when you did that." And he's like, "Okay, that's fair, but I
Yeah.
bet your uncles were praying."
Yeah. Right.
Something. So So that's not to say that he's not dealing with his own stuff, but while he's dealing with his own stuff, he's also helping her like come to grips
Mm,
with everything else.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, because I mean, we all do that, right? Doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian. uh, we always struggle with why does this happen or why didn't God answer this prayer? And we can hear all the Christianese. It's like,
Hmm.
if you didn't get a yes, that's because God's having you wait or, that kind of stuff. And,
Yeah,
it's really easy to just put those kind of platitudes down. But when you have to live through it, it's a totally different story,
it
right?
is. Yes,
And so I love that you talk about that because I think so many times we just we can get frustrated and we can turn away from God. And I hope that your readers or whoever might be going through that same struggle will identify with that and be encouraged. So, Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always easier to walk through things if you have somebody to walk through them with.
Yes.
And that's one of the points that I bring out. That's part of a happily ever after is having that person with you to go through whatever is
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I think it was I was talking with Brett Armstrong when I talked to him about his science fiction book that came out a few months ago. And he talked
Hmm.
about how, we, as authors, we want our stories to resonate.
Yes.
We want them to touch them, not just on an entertainment level, but at a spiritual level too. And that looks
Hmm.
different for everybody, right? And so but there probably are quite a few people who struggle with those same things that Carrie struggled with. And hopefully they'll identify that within themselves and within Carrie and be
Yes.
encouraged. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've talked a lot. Hopefully, haven't given too many things away, but I want to talk and just kind of step back a little bit for a moment. And I want to talk about the whole real life fairy tale series, right? Because it's
Okay.
a lot of people love fairy tale series, fairy tale remakings. But what inspired you to start, the whole fairy tale retelling in contemporary setting?
West Virginia inspired me.
Ah,
That's
okay.
yeah. We went a couple of years ago. I was speaking at a ladies' day, and we decided to make it a family trip because none of us had ever been to West Virginia, and we were staying with friends, and
Uh-huh.
we went out and did the tourist thing a couple days, and got to see the mountains and some artsy craftsy stuff. I got to see glass made and eat some of the food, and it's just really fun state, and
Mm,
it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
yeah.
Um, and as we were driving home, there's this little niggle in my mind, like, oh my goodness, what if Cinderella, what if instead of, the dirt and ashes from the fireplace being on her hands, making her dirty, what if it was because she drew with charcoal?
Oh.
And it just sort of grew from there because there's such a huge art community in West Virginia.
Mm,
And so then I'm like, okay, what if she's trying to get her picture that she's drawing into this art gallery and it's run by the princes,
mm,
Chaz Prince. And so she wants to get her work in the Prince art gallery and she has this neighbor named Faye, and she drives an orange car that they call the pumpkin, And so it
yeah.
just all sort of like came together in my head, and that was the only one I was going to write. I was only going to write that one. Before that, I never wanted to write one. I said I can never do it. They've all been done so many times. What can I do that's different,
Sure. Yeah.
And then that just popped in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this one, and it'll be out of my system. I'll be good. And then I got to the end of it and I realized that Carrie was Snow White. And
Mm,
I realized, and this is probably going to lead into one of your next questions, but I realized that Ella's stepsister, Bellamy, is a character from Beauty and the Beast.
oh,
So that's going to be the third one. And I'm about to turn it in May. So
okay. There
it's,
you go.
yeah, it's being polished up.
Polished up. Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. Yes, you actually answered two of my questions. I was asking you about Rendicella,
Baked.
and I was going to ask you about book three. So you're just awesome jumping. So let me just ask you this because some people will ask, can you read the books out of order? Or do they need to be read in order?
You could probably read them out of order or read them without reading the other one first.
Mhm.
It will give away the ending of the first one if you read the second one
Mm,
without it.
yeah.
But you also know it's a fairy tale and it's going to have a happy ending.
There you
I'm
go.
pretty sure you can figure out at least part of what how it's
Yeah.
going to end.
Yeah, yeah. We kind of have
Yeah,
some idea. Most of us,
yeah,
right? Yeah, most of us. Yeah. No, I think it's
yes.
always a really important question because so many times series, they take characters from others, the first story or the second story, right?
Hmm.
And build their own stuff. And then, you have stories like mine, which kind of need to be read in order. And
Right.
people don't know these things in advance. They kind
Yes.
of, when they read book three first, they're like, well, I
Mhm.
think there was something going on, but I have to go back and read books one and two.
Right.
So I always like
Yeah.
to ask people, especially with series, because I don't want readers, and they will do this, they will leave a bad review
Hmm.
if they didn't know the books needed to be read in order. right?
Right.
So not fair to the author, but if we can help avoid a negative review for something like that, then I'm happy to ask the question. All right. So, when you're done, when a reader is done reading Fairest and All, what is it you hope they take away?
Um, that a happily ever after is worth it.
Yeah.
That the end is really the beginning, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
And that, it's okay to let go of some preconceived notions. And and it's okay to let yourself hope and believe.
Mm. Awesome. Right. Well, good. I'm very excited for you. It is a charming small town setting, some wonderful family dynamics, um, and of course, a romance with a few obstacles along the way. But I have no doubt that people are going to love the story so much.
Me
So,
too.
thank you, Amy, for joining me today. I've enjoyed,
Yes.
as always, visiting with you. And I know how to connect with you, but let's tell readers how they can connect with you online and where they can learn more about your books.
So my website is amyranguish.com.
Mm.
And I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, uh, which is I guess is actually X now. I don't know. And then Instagram, Goodreads, BookWeb, Amazon. I'm on all of them. So if you look up Amy Anguish, you're gonna find me.
Awesome. Don't
Yeah,
forget the amyranguish.com. But we'll have
ranguish.com.
all that information in the description so you can be sure to find her easily. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us today, Amy. It's always fun to get a glimpse behind the story and learn more about the inspiration behind a book. So thank you all for watching or listening. We're always so glad to have you join us and hopefully get a little bit of insight that maybe you wouldn't know otherwise when you pick up a book from Scrivenings Press. But be sure to like and subscribe our page so you don't miss any of our interviews, which are pretty much weekly. And so make sure you join us for the next episode. We'll be discussing the behind the scenes and the inspiration of another Scrivenings Press author. So until then, happy reading, and we'll see you next time. Bye.